Have you ever felt that anxiety controls you, leaving you trapped in an endless cycle of worries? What if I told you there's an ancient teaching that can help you free yourself from that anxiety once and for all? In the next few minutes, you'll discover how a simple but powerful lesson from Buddha has helped millions of people calm their minds and find inner peace. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll have a tool that can transform your life, and anxiety will be a thing of the past. Before continuing, if you're interested in learning more about how Buddhist teachings can help you live a more peaceful and balanced life, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Here we share meditation techniques, mindfulness, and ancestral wisdom that will help you transform your mind and find inner peace. Don't miss any of our upcoming videos that, like this one, are designed to improve your well-being. Click the subscription button and activate the bell to stay informed of all new publications. Now let's return to our topic. Introduction. What is anxiety and how does it affect our lives? Anxiety is one of the most common emotions in modern life. It follows us in our daily routines, at work, in our relationships, and even during moments of rest. But did you know it doesn't have to be this way? For over 2,500 years, Buddha taught that suffering, including anxiety, is something we can learn to manage and overcome. In this video, I'll take you through a Buddhist teaching that can completely change how you face anxiety. It doesn't matter if anxiety has affected you for a long time or if you simply feel overwhelmed at certain moments. The lessons I'm going to show you are applicable to any situation. Through a combination of meditation, mindfulness, and a deep understanding of Buddhist principles, you'll see how anxiety can transform into calm and mental clarity. Join me on this journey toward inner peace. It's not about eliminating worries completely, but learning to coexist with them in a wiser way without letting them control your life. The power to achieve this is in your mind, and in the next few minutes, you'll discover how to unlock it. The origin of anxiety. According to Buddhism, in Buddhism, it's taught that the root of anxiety and suffering in general comes from attachment to material things, to people, to ideas, even our expectations. This generates tension and suffering when they're not fulfilled or when we fear losing them. This attachment keeps us in a constant state of worry about what we have or what we believe we need. In many cases, anxiety is born from that fear of losing something we value or not obtaining what we desire. Buddha identified this cycle in what's known as the Four Noble Truths, where suffering and the anxiety that accompanies it has a cause but can also have an end if we understand its origin. Anxiety is not an external phenomenon, but an internal response conditioned by our mind. The source of anxiety lies in our attachment and our aversion. We want what we believe makes us happy and reject what causes us discomfort. This constant back and forth is what keeps anxiety alive. One of Buddhism's key teachings is that everything is impermanent. The things we possess, the relationships we build, and even our emotions are all temporary. However, our mind becomes attached to the idea that we must keep everything under control, that we must retain what makes us happy and avoid what causes us pain. This attachment is what chains us to anxiety. By learning to observe life from the perspective of impermanence, we can begin to release these attachments and with them, anxiety. The teaching of detachment doesn't mean renouncing everything, but learning to relate to the world in a freer way without fear or desire dominating us. In this chapter, we'll explore how the thoughts and emotions that feed our anxiety are created by our mind and how we can begin to free ourselves from them through a new way of thinking and living. Buddha's teaching for freeing yourself from anxiety. In Buddhism, one of the most powerful teachings is the understanding that suffering, including anxiety, is not something that comes from outside, but is a creation of our own mind. Throughout his life, Buddha taught that our mind is the main source of our well-being or suffering. In this sense, anxiety is nothing more than a reflection of our relationship with the world and with ourselves. If we change our way of relating to the world, our experience of anxiety also changes. One of the key teachings for freeing oneself from anxiety is the practice of detachment, which is based on the idea that excessive attachment to objects, people, emotions, or thoughts generates suffering. Detachment doesn't mean abandoning or rejecting everything we have, but learning to experience life with a free mind, without clinging to the constant desire to control what we cannot control. Instead of fighting against anxiety, detachment teaches us to observe it, understand it, and free ourselves from its control. To better understand this teaching, it's useful to explore how anxiety originates from the Buddhist perspective. Buddha taught that the cause of suffering, and therefore anxiety, is tanha, which means desire or craving. This desire is what drives us to constantly seek what makes us feel safe and comfortable, and to reject what causes us pain or discomfort. However, the world is in constant change, and the things we desire or fear are beyond our control. This generates a cycle of dissatisfaction. When we obtain what we desire, we fear losing it, and when we don't obtain it, we feel frustration and anxiety. The key to breaking this cycle is understanding the nature of impermanence, a central concept in Buddhism. Everything that exists in the world, including our thoughts and emotions, is in constant change. Nothing remains forever. Anxiety arises when we cling to the idea that something must be permanent, whether it's an emotional state, a relationship, or a life situation. When we learn to accept that everything is transitory, including our own thoughts and emotions, we begin to free ourselves from the suffering that anxiety generates. A classic example of how the teaching of detachment applies to anxiety is the practice of observation without judgment. In this practice, we're invited to observe our thoughts and emotions as if they were clouds in the sky. Clouds come and go, and in the same way, anxious thoughts can arise and disappear. We don't need to cling to them or identify with them. When an anxious thought arises, we can recognize it, but we don't have to react to it. We simply observe it and let it pass like a cloud in the sky that will eventually disappear. In addition to observation without judgment, Buddha taught a series of practices that help us free ourselves from anxiety, and one of the most effective is mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness teaches us to be completely present in the current moment without being dragged away by worrying thoughts or expectations about the future. When we are fully present, there's no room for anxiety, since anxiety usually feeds on worry about what might happen, not what's occurring in this precise instant. The practice of mindfulness begins with something as simple as breathing. Through conscious breathing, we can anchor ourselves in the present moment, moving away from the anxious thoughts that distract us. Buddha taught that by concentrating on the act of breathing, we allow the mind to calm down and return to the here and now. Each time we inhale and exhale consciously, we're strengthening our ability to be present and not be dragged away by anxiety. Breathing becomes a refuge we can return to each time the mind becomes agitated. But how does this work in daily life? Imagine a situation where you feel overwhelmed by anxiety, perhaps due to a work concern or an argument with someone close. The mind fills with what-if thoughts and what-if-I-can't thoughts. In that moment, instead of letting those thoughts take control, you can stop and bring your attention to breathing. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. By doing so, you realize that those anxious thoughts are nothing more than that. Thoughts. They don't have the power to define reality unless you give them that power. Breathing helps you create a space between you and the thoughts, and in that space, you can choose not to be dominated by them. Another fundamental teaching for freeing oneself from anxiety is the practice of compassion, not only toward others, but toward oneself. Often anxiety is aggravated when we're too hard on ourselves, when we blame ourselves for feeling bad or for not being able to handle the situation as we believe we should. Buddha taught that compassion is one of the most powerful forces for transforming the mind and heart. When we treat ourselves with kindness, recognizing that it's natural to feel anxiety at certain moments, we give ourselves the opportunity to heal and grow. Self-compassion allows us to free ourselves from the burden of guilt and self-criticism, creating an internal environment more conducive to peace. At this point, you might ask yourself, how can I integrate these teachings into my daily life? The answer lies in constant practice. It's not about making a radical change overnight, but incorporating small actions each day that bring you closer to a calmer mind, free of anxiety. You can start by dedicating a few minutes each morning to conscious breathing, simply sitting in silence and observing your breath. Throughout the day, you can remind yourself that anxious thoughts are like passing clouds and that you don't need to cling to them. Over time, these practices will naturally integrate into your life, and you'll realize that although anxious thoughts may continue to appear, they no longer have the same control over you. The mind becomes stronger, more resilient, and anxiety, instead of being an enemy, becomes a signal that it's time to return to your practice, to return to breathing, to remember that everything is impermanent and that you can handle any situation with calm and clarity. In summary, Buddha's teaching for freeing oneself from anxiety is not a quick solution, but a continuous process of internal transformation. Through understanding attachment, impermanence, observation without judgment, mindfulness, and self-compassion, we can dismantle the mental patterns that keep us trapped in anxiety. By practicing these teachings, we not only reduce anxiety, but also cultivate a freer, clearer mind that's more capable of facing life's challenges with serenity. Meditation technique for reducing anxiety. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools that Buddhism offers for reducing anxiety. Through meditative practice, you not only calm the mind, but also develop the ability to observe thoughts in a detached way without letting them dominate you. In this chapter, I'll guide you through a meditation technique specifically designed to reduce anxiety, and we'll see how you can integrate it into your daily life to find more lasting peace. The meditation we're going to practice is based on two fundamental principles: conscious breathing and observation without judgment. These are key pillars in Buddhism and are particularly useful when it comes to calming an anxious mind. The goal of this meditation is not to make anxious thoughts disappear completely, but to change the relationship you have with them. You'll learn to observe those thoughts from a position of calm and balance instead of reacting impulsively to them. Before starting the practice, it's important to find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably. You don't need to have a perfect posture or be in a specific place. You can sit in a chair, on the floor with a cushion, or even lie down if you prefer. What's important is that you find a position that allows you to be relaxed but alert, without tension in the body. If you choose to sit, make sure your back is straight, but without rigidity. Your hands can rest on your knees or in your lap. Now, we're going to center our attention on breathing. Begin by inhaling deeply through your nose, feeling how the air enters your body and fills your lungs. Then exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any accumulated tension in the body. You don't have to force the breathing, just let it flow naturally. When inhaling, imagine you're inhaling calm and serenity, and when exhaling, imagine you're releasing any worry or anxiety you might be feeling. Repeat this process several times, with each breath feeling how your body relaxes more and more. As you feel more relaxed, begin to bring your attention to the natural flow of your breathing. Don't try to control it. Simply observe how air enters and leaves your body. Feel how fresh air enters through your nostrils, travels through your throat and fills your lungs. Then feel how warm air exits again, taking with it any tension. Each breath is an opportunity to anchor yourself in the present, to return to this moment, leaving behind any worries about the past or future. While you concentrate on your breathing, it's natural for anxious thoughts to begin appearing. Perhaps worries about something you have to do later arise, or maybe you feel a wave of emotions you had been repressing. Don't worry about these thoughts. Don't try to eliminate them or fight against them. Instead, simply observe them. Imagine that each thought is a cloud crossing the sky of your mind. Just like clouds, thoughts come and go. Some are denser and darker, while others are light and quick. But all, without exception, fade away sooner or later. The key here is not to identify with those thoughts. When an anxious thought arises, instead of telling yourself, "I am anxious," you can simply recognize it as an anxious thought is appearing. This small change in language helps you distance yourself from the emotion, reminding you that you are not that thought but the observer of that thought. You are the sky, not the clouds. Anxious thoughts are transitory and don't have the power to define you unless you give them that power. While you continue observing your breathing and allowing thoughts to pass, you might notice that some thoughts return again and again. Perhaps there's a worry that seems persistent, a situation that's generating constant anxiety. In this case, instead of avoiding that thought, invite it to enter your field of consciousness. Allow yourself to observe it closely without fear. Ask yourself, what is this thought trying to tell me? Often anxious thoughts are our mind's way of alerting us about something that deeply concerns us, but when we observe it without judgment, without trying to resolve it immediately, we can deactivate the emotional charge that accompanies it. Another important aspect of this meditation is compassion toward oneself. It's very common for anxious people to judge themselves for feeling anxiety. Perhaps you think, "I should be able to handle this," or "I shouldn't feel this way," but judgment only aggravates anxiety. Instead, I want you to allow yourself to feel compassion for yourself. Anxiety is a normal human experience, and there's nothing wrong with feeling it. As you continue with your breathing, repeat silently, "It's okay to feel this way. I allow myself to feel this anxiety without judging myself." This simple act of self-compassion can have a powerful effect on your mind and body, softening tension and allowing you to relax more deeply. If at any moment during this meditation you feel that anxious thoughts are too overwhelming, you can return to focusing on breathing. Breathing is your anchor, your safe refuge. Each time you feel lost in thoughts, Simply return to your breathing. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and observe how little by little the thoughts lose strength. As you continue with this practice, you'll notice that anxiety doesn't disappear immediately, but your relationship with it begins to change. Instead of automatically reacting to anxious thoughts, you observe them calmly, as if you were watching a movie projected on a screen. Anxiety may continue arising, but it no longer controls you. You become the witness of your own mind, instead of being dragged by it. This meditation is something you can practice every day, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes. Over time, you'll notice that your ability to handle anxiety improves, not because anxiety disappears completely, but because you'll have developed a healthier and less reactive relationship with it. Instead of seeing anxiety as an enemy, you'll learn to see it as an opportunity to practice mindfulness, observation without judgment, and self-compassion. Once you feel ready to end the meditation, begin to move your fingers and toes slightly. Allow your attention to slowly return to the environment around you, feeling the contact of your body with the seat or floor. Take one last deep breath, and when exhaling, let go of any tension that remains in your body. Open your eyes slowly, and take a moment to observe how you feel now compared to when you started the meditation. This simple meditation exercise can make a big difference in how you handle anxiety in your daily life. By practicing it regularly, you'll be strengthening your ability to be present, observe your thoughts without reacting, and maintain calm in the midst of the storm. Remember that meditation is not a quick solution, but over time it can profoundly transform your relationship with anxiety and help you find greater inner peace. How to apply this teaching in daily life. The practice of meditation and mindfulness we've just explored is a powerful tool for reducing anxiety, but for its impact to be truly transformative, it's important to take these teachings beyond the meditation cushion and apply them in our daily life. Often we face moments of anxiety not while sitting in meditation, but in the midst of everyday situations, whether at work, at home, or interacting with other people. This is where true practice begins, learning to handle anxiety in real time when we find ourselves in the middle of life without a safe and quiet space to take refuge. One of the key principles for applying this Buddhist teaching is the practice of mindfulness in every moment, not just during formal meditation. Mindfulness is the ability to be completely present in the moment, observing what's happening both within you and around you without judging or automatically reacting. Anxiety usually arises when our mind projects toward the future, worrying about what might happen or what we should do. When we practice mindfulness, we anchor ourselves in the present, which allows us to avoid falling into those mental projections and consequently reduce anxiety. Imagine, for example, that you're at work and facing an important deadline. The pressure is intense, and you start to feel anxiety settling in your body. Your shoulders tense, your breathing becomes shallow, and thoughts of, "What if I don't finish on time?" begin repeating in your mind. Here is where Buddha's teaching about mindfulness can make a big difference. Instead of letting those thoughts and sensations dominate you, you can take a mental step back and observe what's happening within you. Instead of labeling those thoughts as bad or threatening, you simply observe them as they are, thoughts. They're not reality. They're simply interpretations your mind is creating in that moment. You can practice conscious breathing as we did in the previous meditation. By inhaling deeply, you bring your attention to the physical sensation of air entering and leaving your body. This helps calm the nervous system and break the anxiety cycle that thoughts are creating. Even in the middle of an office full of people or in a stressful situation, you can find a few seconds to close your eyes, inhale deeply, and recenter yourself. This small pause can completely change your mental state, allowing you to approach the situation with more clarity and calm. Another useful technique you can apply in anxiety situations is conscious recognition of what you're feeling without trying to change it immediately. Often when we feel anxiety, our first reaction is to try to get rid of that sensation as quickly as possible. We tell ourselves, "I don't want to feel this way," and fight against the emotion. But Buddhist teaching tells us that fighting against our emotions only gives them more power. Instead, we're invited to recognize what we're feeling without judging it or trying to eliminate it. You can tell yourself, "In this moment I'm feeling anxiety," and simply observe that emotion as if it were a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. This act of recognizing without reacting reduces anxiety's emotional charge and allows us to see the situation with more objectivity. In daily life, there are countless opportunities to practice this conscious recognition. Perhaps you're in a tense conversation with someone and feel anxiety beginning to increase. Instead of letting that emotion dictate how you respond, you can take a moment to observe what's happening within you. I feel tension in my stomach, or I'm noticing that my breathing is accelerating. This small act of observation creates a space between you and the emotion, which allows you to respond to the situation from a place of calm instead of reactivity. In addition to mindfulness and conscious recognition, another important teaching from Buddhism that you can apply in daily life is the concept of impermanence. Anxiety often feels like something overwhelming and eternal, as if it will last forever. But one of the fundamental truths Buddha taught is that everything in this world is impermanent, including our thoughts and emotions. Nothing lasts forever, neither the good nor the bad. When you deeply understand this truth, you can approach anxiety with a new perspective. Instead of thinking, I'm trapped in this anxiety, you can remind yourself, this too shall pass. Anxiety, like any emotion, is transitory. It will arise and eventually disappear like waves in the ocean. Imagine a situation where you feel great anxiety, like public speaking or facing a difficult situation at work. It's natural to feel a wave of emotions before the situation begins, and your mind might start generating thoughts of, I won't be able to do it, or what if everything goes wrong? In that moment, you can apply the teaching of impermanence. You recognize those thoughts and emotions, and then remind yourself, this is only temporary. By doing this, you reduce the pressure you feel and allow yourself to navigate the situation with more tranquility, knowing that anxiety will eventually diminish. Another way to apply this teaching in daily life is through the practice of compassion, both toward others and toward oneself. Anxiety often makes us feel isolated, as if we were the only ones struggling with those feelings. However, Buddhism teaches that suffering is part of the shared human experience. Everyone at some point experiences anxiety, fear, insecurity, or stress. When you recognize that you're not alone in your struggle, you become more compassionate with yourself and with others. Instead of criticizing yourself for feeling anxiety, you can tell yourself, it's human to feel this way. This self-compassion allows you to soften anxiety's impact and respond to yourself with kindness instead of judgment. You can apply compassion toward others in a similar way. Maybe you face a situation where another person is acting in a way that generates anxiety for you, like a demanding boss or a difficult colleague. Instead of reacting with irritation or frustration, you can practice compassion by realizing that they too are dealing with their own difficulties, fears, and insecurities. When you see others with compassion, you reduce the power of anxiety that arises in those interactions and open yourself to responding from a place of understanding instead of reactivity. It's also important to highlight that the practice of meditation and mindfulness doesn't have to be limited to specific moments of the day. You can take these teachings to every aspect of your daily life. For example, while walking to work, you can practice walking meditation, bringing your attention to each step you take, feeling the contact of your feet with the ground, observing the sounds and sensations around you. By doing this, you not only anchor yourself in the present, but also reduce anxiety that might be arising in your mind about what awaits you in the day. Similarly, while performing everyday tasks like washing dishes or cooking, you can practice mindfulness by paying attention to each movement, to sounds, to textures. These tasks become opportunities to calm the mind and practice detachment from anxious thoughts that might otherwise be invading your consciousness. Finally, I want to emphasize the importance of constant practice. Buddhism teaches us that mental transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and dedication to develop the ability to observe our thoughts without reacting, to practice self-compassion, and to integrate mindfulness into our daily life. But, over time, these practices begin to have a cumulative effect. You'll notice that little by little, anxiety loses its power over you. You become more conscious, more present, and more capable of handling stressful situations without being dragged by them. In summary, applying these teachings in daily life not only helps you reduce anxiety, but also allows you to live more fully and consciously. Anxiety is part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to define your life. Through the practice of mindfulness, compassion, and recognition of impermanence, you can develop a calmer, more resilient, and peaceful mind. And most importantly, you can carry these tools with you anywhere at any time to find calm and clarity in the midst of chaos. Final reflection and recommendations. Now that we've explored various tools and Buddhist teachings for dealing with anxiety, it's important to reflect on how to integrate these practices into your daily life continuously. The path toward a calmer, Mind free of anxiety is not about achieving an overnight transformation, but about building a different relationship with your thoughts and emotions over time. In this final reflection, we'll see how you can deepen these teachings and make them part of your day-to-day so you can experience a life with greater inner peace and less anxiety. First, it's fundamental to remember that anxiety is a natural part of human experience. No matter how advanced we are in our meditation practice or how much wisdom we acquire, there will be moments when anxiety presents itself. The goal of these teachings is not to completely eliminate anxiety from your life, as that would be unrealistic. Instead, what we seek is to develop a healthier and wiser way of relating to anxiety when it appears, so it doesn't control or paralyze us. Throughout this video, we've talked about the importance of mindfulness, the ability to be present in the current moment and observe what's happening within us without judging it or reacting impulsively. This is a skill that strengthens with daily practice. You might find it difficult at first to maintain mindfulness for long periods, but like any other skill, the more you practice it, the easier it will become. I encourage you to start with small doses of practice. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference. In addition to mindfulness, we've explored the practice of meditation as a tool for calming the mind and observing anxious thoughts from a position of detachment. I recommend that you dedicate specific time each day, even if brief, to sit in meditation. This doesn't have to be complicated or formal. What's important is that you create a space where you can be with yourself, observing your breathing, your thoughts, and your emotions without distractions. As this practice becomes a habit, you'll notice that your mind becomes calmer and your ability to handle anxiety improves significantly. Another important teaching we've covered is the idea of impermanence. Anxiety, like any emotion, is transitory. Everything in life is in constant change, including our emotions and thoughts. When you feel anxiety overwhelming you, remember that this too shall pass. This reminder may seem simple, but it has a profound impact on how we handle difficult emotions. By accepting the changing nature of anxiety, we stop fighting against it and learn to let it follow its course without clinging to it. It's crucial to apply these teachings not only in moments of tranquility or during meditation, but also in real situations of daily life. Maybe you have a stressful job, relationships that generate anxiety, or constant worries about the future. These are perfect opportunities to put into practice what we've discussed. When you face a situation that would normally cause you anxiety, try to take a step back and observe what's happening within you. What thoughts are arising? How does your body feel? How is your breathing? By taking this moment of pause and observation, you create a space between you and the emotion, which allows you to respond from a place of calm instead of reacting impulsively. If you find yourself in the middle of a particularly difficult situation and feel that anxiety is overwhelming, remember the mindfulness exercise we practiced. Conscious breathing, observation of sensations in your body, and recognition of the environment can help you calm down quickly and regain control. It's not about eliminating anxiety in the moment, but preventing it from growing uncontrollably. This exercise is like a pause button you can press when you need it to recalibrate your mind and return to being centered. Another important recommendation is self-compassion. Often when we're anxious, we criticize ourselves for feeling that way. We think, I shouldn't be so nervous, or why can't I control this? But this attitude only aggravates anxiety. Buddha taught us the importance of compassion, not only toward others, but also toward ourselves. If you find yourself in a moment of anxiety, instead of criticizing yourself, try to treat yourself with kindness. Remember that it's human to feel anxiety and that everyone at some point goes through the same thing. Self-compassion allows you to soften anxiety's impact and helps you recover faster. It's also useful to surround yourself with an environment that supports these practices. Maybe you can create a space in your home where you can meditate regularly or practice mindfulness without interruptions. This space doesn't have to be large or complicated. It can be a simple corner with a cushion and a candle. What's important is that it's a place where you can retreat, even for a few minutes, to reconnect with yourself. Additionally, I recommend that you seek moments of tranquility in nature. Spending time outdoors, whether in a park, beach, or mountain, has an incredibly calming effect on the mind. Nature reminds us of impermanence and reconnects us with something greater than our own thoughts. If you feel overwhelmed by anxiety, going for a walk, listening to the sound of leaves, or simply observing the sky can be an excellent way to re-establish your internal balance. Now that we've journeyed together through these powerful Buddhist teachings for managing anxiety, I want to thank you for dedicating this time to your mental and emotional well-being. We've explored practical tools like meditation, mindfulness, and self-compassion, and how you can apply them in daily life to reduce anxiety and find greater inner peace. Remember, even though anxiety may arise at different times, you now have the tools to prevent it from controlling you. With gratitude, Daily Dharma.